Hello everyone, my name is Tyler from Johnston, Morrison, Hunter, Chartered Professional Accountants. We have teamed up with the Medicine Hat Chamber to present some information on some COVID benefits. So we will dive in here today about the Alberta Small and Medium Enterprise Relaunch Grant. Share the screen here. There we go. So some quick overview of the topic here. So what is the subsidy grant that's available? The eligibility, how do you calculate it, go through some examples, and how do you claim it. So the subsidy is $20,000 broken down into two payments. The first one is a maximum of $5,000, and the second one is a maximum of $15,000 for a total of $20,000 for eligible applicants. Is to be utilized to offset a portion of the public health measures that have been mandated. So if you need to relaunch or you need to minimize the risk of virus transmission, so you're looking, plexiglass barriers, you got to buy PPE, rent, wages, that sort of thing. That's what it can be used for. So to be eligible, you have to be one of the following entities in Alberta. So corporation, partnership, sole proprietor, nonprofit, society, or cooperative. And you have to be registered in Alberta. So you might have some issues if you're a sole proprietor who never registered a trade name or something like that. You have to have a permanent establishment in Alberta. And you have to have been eligible to or been carrying on a business in Alberta as of February 29th, 2020. You have to be a smaller employer, so less than 500 employees, and you have to have been ordered to close or curtail operations through a public health order. This would be something like capacity in a building, anything that reduced your operations as a result of the public health order. In addition to that, you have to have experienced a 30% revenue decline in April or May 2020 compared to April or May 2019 or February 2020. We'll go through an example. They do give you a lot of months to choose from. You have to be open or plan to reopen once the public health order is lifted. You can't just take the money and run. And to be eligible for the second payment, there's a curtailment or ceasing of operations that had to have occurred due to November 6th public health order. So calculating the first payment, fairly straightforward. You take your April or May or February gross revenue, and you compare that to your April or May 2020 gross revenue. You get your revenue reduction. If it's in excess of 30% or greater, then you will qualify for the first payment. Now it is capped at 15% of pre-COVID revenues or $5,000, whichever is less. So you're at about $30,000 of pre-COVID revenue to qualify for almost the full $5,000. The second payment is as simple as multiplying the first payment times 3, if you qualify, that is. So let's go through a quick example. Your April 2020 revenue was $50,000. Your May 2020 revenue was $60,000. April 19 was $80,000, May 19 was $130,000, and your February 2020 was $140,000. So you're going to look at the months that provide the biggest revenue reduction in the event that maybe you're sitting, slightly less than the 30% decline. So in this case, we're going to look at April 2020 and February 2020. So if we compare those two numbers, we have a decline of about $90,000 or 64%. So your first payment, because you're over the about $30,000 for the 15%, and below the 30%, you have a higher than 30% decline, you're going to be eligible for the first $5,000. And the second payment, again, assuming that you have either closed or curtailed operations as of November 6th, you're going to be at the extra $15,000, total 20 grand in your pocket. So let's look at an example where you're limited by the 15%. So your April 2020 revenue, let's say it was 10 grand, your April 2019 revenue was 30,000, your revenue decline is 20,000 or 67%. So you meet the 30% decline, but you're going to be limited to the 15%. So 15% of your pre-COVID revenue here is $30,000 or $4,500. So your first payment is going to be capped at $4,500. Now, assuming you're eligible for the second payment, multiply it by 3, you're at 13,500. So your total benefit in this situation is $18,000. How do you apply for this? It's exceedingly simple, actually. You can go online through My Alberta Digital ID. It's a quick Google to sign up, to register. They do have the second tier of registration to verify an account. You don't need to do that. You can actually do applications on behalf of yourself or others. Here's a list of information that you need. Essentially all of the basic corporate and business information, as well as some banking information for direct deposit. I will go through the application here with you just so you have an idea of what it looks like. And then you do have to attest that there was an impact due to public health order. You can later check through the Alberta login as to the status of your application, which has been good. You can actually email them. They do provide an email at the bottom of the webpage for the Alberta Small and Medium Enterprise Relaunch Grant. If you have any questions or something like that, I've personally reached out to them. They do get back to you. It is not just a black hole. If you applied for the first payment, let's say earlier in the year before the second payment was announced here in the last couple of weeks, you can go online to your Alberta ID and there will be an option to simply apply for the second payment. And it's important to note that as most grants and the such, they are taxable and they must be declared on as your taxable income. So I'll bring open the web page here. So at the bottom here is the email I talked about. So in terms of applying, you can just scroll down to how to apply. And there's this nice little button, online application portal. Click on that, it'll move you over to your Alberta login and you can select apply. Let me bring it over here. So here's an example of what the grant application actually looks like. Are you applying for more than one organization? Select the organization you're applying for, sorry. You'll just type in the name of your organization. Here's kind of the basic information that you need to enter. You're just looking at contact information, corporate access numbers, your Alberta ID number that you incorporated with, federal ID number, etc. They want the dates that you were first impeded by a public health order. So that's the closure or curtailment. Most times you're going to be at that March 15th date when it was first announced. Here's where they want your revenue amounts. So at the top here, we have the April, May 19 or February 2020, and then April 2020, May 2020. And it does the whole calculation for you. And it wants you to select what you're using it for. So very straightforward. They do go through the second payment here. This is what they changed when it was announced. Again, this is all auto-calculated other than the yes, no's. I didn't have to enter any of this here. If you're a sole proprietor, they want your SIN. And here's the banking information. So if you have a check or a bank statement, you can enter all of this information and they'll deposit in about 10 days. If you don't get it in that time frame, they might be behind, but again, you can always kick them an email where I noted down below. So at this point, there's a few pages of attestations, and that is essentially it. You'll see we're 4 steps shy of the end. The next 3 are very similar to this. You click submit and you wait. And that's essentially how to claim this grant. It's very easy to do so. It's fairly wide reaching. As with anything, if there's any questions on this grant or other COVID benefits, feel free to drop us a line. My direct contact information is here. All right, everyone, have a great day.